Okay, welcome everyone to the Analytic Mind podcast. I'm here with Rashmi Menon, and Rashmi comes from FedEx and has a lot of experience in analyzing customer data, which you could imagine is just vitally important for a company, a huge company like FedEx. So I'm excited to get into this discussion today, and I think really focusing on that customer aspect of analytics and how you can generate enormous value by really having a solid focus on that value generation, the value generation possibilities in this particular area. So Rashmi, I'll throw it to you. Maybe you can just give a little bit more background around what you currently do, but also just your experience in this particular area, and then we can sort of kick off into our discussion.
Sounds good, Sam. And thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been really good. I really loved what your team does, the enterprise DNA. So it's really nice to, be here and share some of my experiences. So I have been with FedEx for over 15 years now in different analytical fields, right from marketing analysis, again, a lot to do with customer data there as well, HR analysis, which was internal, more with employee data, and now in customer experience analysis. And I've also worked in sales analysis. So a
Wow.
lot to do with, there's lots of customer data and customer analytics that comes into the play, right?
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to be in this field. This really motivates me, encourages me, because I do believe a lot in data-driven decisions, making sure my team is empowered with that kind of data so they can eventually impact the bottom line of the company. So
Mm.
again, my success and my and the company's success relies on my team's success, and I'm very fortunate to have a great team.
Great. And so I would imagine at a company like FedEx being so large and multinational,
Huge.
how comprehensive is the analytics area, and how much of a focus does the organization have around developing a data-driven culture?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. So FedEx is a very big company. We have over 450,000 employees worldwide.
Mm.
And it started off in Memphis, Tennessee, right? I mean, our chairman is from Tennessee, Fred Smith, and it was primarily in the US and then became worldwide. And I am from the Latin American Caribbean region,
Mhm.
which is headquartered here in Miami, Florida. So, let me tell you a little bit. I was also in Memphis in my beginning of my career. So
Mhm.
I must tell you this, that it has been always data driven, but it was disparate in different pockets, in the
Right.
beginning. And
Right.
now it is more structured, which is really great, because now executives really see why we have a need for analytics. So literally every work stream, let it be HR, let it be sales, let it be everything, they all have the analytical arm in it. And at
Right.
the end of it, we are all using similar enterprise tools to really showcase the data. So our executives are
Right.
not it's not like they're not used to seeing something. So it's very well connected, even though it's such a large organization.
Mm.
Me being in LAC, I can tell you that we have business partners in APAC, in MISA, which stands for Middle Eastern and MISA Europe region, and then also with Europe and Canada. So we all are very well connected,
Mhm.
and each of the analytical teams are connected and structured very well.
Great. And so, what would be quite interesting is how do you coordinate as such a disparate organization around analytics specifically? So, how do you coordinate, say, the priorities? How do you coordinate the output? How do you coordinate the expertise and resources that you have internally to deliver to execute on those initiatives?
Sure.
Maybe just some thoughts on that I think would be really valuable.
Okay, I'll try my best. So I can tell you that with such a huge organization, we do have a vision that comes from our chairman, that is shared across the board. So one of the biggest one is Purple Promise, which makes that customers come first, and
Right.
making sure that every customer's need and request is met. And it is in our blood. We call it the purple blood. So it's in our blood. It's across the globe, actually. And we also have, like, just in LAC itself, we also have something my team is really front runner of is the ACE, which is Analytical Center of Excellence,
Mm.
which really focuses on making sure, regardless of which functional organization you're in, we all use very similar approaches, very similar templates, even if it's presenting to the executive management. What we are all focused towards, which is reducing the cost and improving the top line,
Mm.
if it's cross-functional initiatives or whatever it is, but we are trying to do the similar things, and we work very collaboratively at the cross-functional teams. So when we have our, say, people service profit, that's what the PSP stands for. When
Mhm.
we have our PSP meetings with our executives, so these are not executives just from one functional area. They are there for all the functional areas. They get together and then we are presenting to them directly on where we need their help and their guidance. So it's not a long one whole day meeting. It's just a little 1 hour meeting, but all the information is shared with them
Mhm.
ahead of time, and it's a particular specific template that's sent with the key KPIs or the key performance indicators
Mhm.
that are shared with them, so then they know where things are going down or where the things are not working poorly, where there are achievements. And it's not a place to celebrate our achievements per se. It's more a place to focus on where do we need to continuously improve and what are the next strategies that we need to go. So the whole, I would say, FedEx, we have specific templates. We have our brand area on how do we position ourselves. So it is very common across all analytical teams.
Right. Okay. So as a business, you've made a decision to uh, create consistency around how you deliver
Correct.
analytical output or
Hmm.
analytical initiatives, and you find that with that you are able to scale, I presume, scale your efforts across different divisions or different regional areas.
That is correct. Yes.
Right. Now, because so now you're working in customer data, as I mentioned earlier, and but I didn't actually. You've got a lot of experience across different sets of or different areas of the business and analytics space as well. So, would you be able to maybe contrast the customer aspect versus, say, the marketing or the HR analytics that you've done in the past?
Wow.
What are some of the more significant differences in how you go about things, and also sort of what you produce as an analytical output?
Okay, very good question. I can definitely tell you there's a big difference between HR and customer data, right?
Yeah.
With respect to marketing and customer experience data, we do have lanes that coincide with each other, because both of them are looking at customer data and customer information. Marketing relies more on the marketing segmentation of the customers and how they are going to outreach the customers, meaning the marketing campaigns and the promotions that they need to work into. That's not what customer experience focuses on, but they still do use the same segmentation to tailor to those customer needs when the customer calls in or reaches out to FedEx for specific issues. So that's where the difference between marketing data and customer experience data comes along.
Mhm.
Now, with HR data is totally different. HR data is so internal. It's all about employee retention. So, what are the things that employees, what is that happiness factor that employees have, to retain them, to make sure they really produce that great output to eventually deliver the purple promise, which is customers come first, right?
Mhm.
So it's very important to motivate the employees and to make sure we have the right employee data about their performance and everything. So that data is different from the customer data, which is in customer experience, that shows as to what are the different problems or the issues customers might face, and why they would be calling. So we need to predict ahead of time as to why a customer may be calling. So if it's a package that ships, say, from Mexico to, I would say, Paris, if there's a package that moves from these two lanes, then if there is a problem with customs, for example, for that package, let's say we are shipping the Oaxaca cheese from Mexico to Paris, and say there's a problem with some contents about the cheese, some questions that the customs have asked and the customer did not provide that information. So instead of customer calling in and saying, where is my package? Why hasn't it reached Paris? It's best that our customer service rep reaches out to them and say, by the way, you have not filled out this information and we need this information so that the package needs to move. So that's where that data is very helpful, to gather that data ahead of time. What's needed for that package, what is that customer wanting to do, and how do we move it, for example.
Mm,
And for marketing, it is the same thing. For that same customer, we need to give them promotions ahead of time. So we are giving them all the necessary information.
mm,
If you're going to keep shipping, say, 1,000 packages of Oaxaca cheese every month, okay, this is the kind of promotion we will give you, because you will be benefiting out of this service.
mm. Wow, it seems like the complexity, the variables that you would be dealing with in a business like FedEx, especially around the customer experience, could be just enormous because
Yes.
of the variety of customers that you could be dealing with, the variety of products that they're moving around the world over different distances and to different regions. The complexity is huge. So how have you found, or how has the business gone about dealing with so much complexity? Because I could imagine in the initial stages before any of this was done, you could just be overwhelmed with the issues that you might come across. So I'd imagine there's some iterative process in there.
Yes, you're right about being overwhelmed, because initially, I think customer experience as an organization, I must tell you, started off just at least in LAC 4 years ago. And because it's a newly developed organization, even not just with FedEx and many other organizations too, you will see that maybe 20 years ago, there was never an area called a customer experience. It was always customer service. So experience goes beyond the service. It's not about just the call center. It goes about the entire journey of the customer, right from the time the customer, is a potential customer, to the time it's a seasoned customer and starts shipping with us. So it's the entire journey that we are really mapping. So it's a new field, first of all. It was always under the marketing umbrella before. But now that it's become a new field, every single aspect of that customer comes under customer experience. So then the amount of data that we have to gather, understand, be it customs, because customs is a different field within FedEx, or a different organization within FedEx, because there are so many products, as you mentioned.
Mm,
Be it marketing, because it's like, okay, which segment is this customer coming from, and all that information about that customer. Be it the lane, which comes into the planning and engineering, from which point location to which location are they shipping from. So each of these functional organizations are already there, but we have to understand all most of the data to really start getting the true customer experience, for the true good customer experience for that customer,
mm,
because we want to delight that customer, and that's what we are really focused on. So the data becomes huge, right? The data is in billions of information that we are trying to this, but if the data is structured well in these things, and how we can map those different data structures together, that's the key win. Once we know what we are trying to achieve, what are the main things that we will be measuring here, and what are the data sources we need to tap into. And again, one of the key challenges is FedEx is so huge, so finding that data source becomes very important. So
mm,
once we know what are the key insights we really want to capture from this, what are our goals, then finding those data sources, and structuring that data, working with our IT partners to structure that data so that we can effectively place it, and at the end of it, providing it in those key insights and communicating it with our stakeholders as to what are we finding here and what should be our next strategy. Because my team is not just customer analytics, we are customer analytics and strategy team. So we also strategize what should be the next steps we should be doing. Did I answer your question?
yeah, for sure, for sure. One of the
Okay.
things that comes to mind when I was listening to you work through that detail is, how would you go about setting up a team around customer experience? So there's multiple facets to, I guess, being successful in an analytics project. You need some IT
Yes.
experience, so you can make sure you can extract the data, you need the analytical experience. You also need the sort of storytellers, the ones who are relaying the key KPIs and information up the chain to the executives who are ultimately making decisions. So maybe if you could just expand on that and talk through your experiences and what you feel has been successful in gathering the personnel, the resources together to actually make it work and to make it be successful.
Yeah, definitely. I'm thinking through this as I'm talking to. So let me tell you one very good example. We are working on a project, and I don't want to be giving very specific
That's fine.
information here,
No worries.
but we are looking into a project where we can, make sure when the customer calls in, we are reducing the number of handshakes the customer has to go through, and we can effectively resolve the customer issue, first call resolution kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And I would put it as more like, instead of call, first contact resolution, because we are omni-channel. You can contact us through chat, email, I mean, just like many companies, right?
Yep.
So here, when we looked into it, there could be enormous reasons why a customer calls FedEx specifically. It could be shipping, it could be tracking, it could be rating. If I'm shipping this to this, what rates am I getting?
Mhm.
It could be about customs. It could be so many different things. So instead of trying to boil the ocean, we try to focus on a specific task. So let's take for example, the rating issue. So in this case, we know the main people we need to work with is pricing team, right? The pricing team, the IT team that puts that infrastructure together, the data that needs to happen, that needs to be collected, and finally the storytellers, like you were mentioning.
Mhm.
So when I need to have this kind of a team member, and one of my, say, advisors or an analyst is leading that analyst should have the capabilities of being a great PMO, project manager, have the abilities to do those key data insights. So should be able to go in and get their hands dirty with the data, even if it's raw data, to try and structure it, tell IT how do I want this to be designed,
Mhm.
be able to use analytical tools such as, say, Power BI or Tableau. Like all my team members, they know Tableau, but Tableau is not a great tool, at least right now, for FedEx to share it with everybody because of the limited licensing requirements.
Right.
But on the other hand, say Power BI or Spotfire, which is another enterprise license we have. So get all that information out and be able to share the information to our functional owners. I wouldn't call them stakeholders, but functional owners who work on that particular function, say pricing, right?
Mhm.
And then we need someone to take all that insights that they have got and put it in a format that our executives, which are our VPs, our officers and directors, they understand. So they can finally make the decisions. And whenever my team puts this together, we like to give them at least 2 or 3 solutions, the most impactful solution and the most cost effective solution too, and something that is a minimal viable product, something that's impactful but at the same time not too complicated in the beginning. So we would like to give them multiple solutions so then they can then go ahead and make the decision out of it. That's what the officers and directors are for. So I look for a team member that has all these skills, and that's what I try to groom my team towards doing.
Right. Right. That's great. Yeah, it's really interesting, especially when you're dealing with the complexity that I could only imagine have to deal with. Is that you really have to find experts in these particular areas to execute on a well thought out and strategic project around analytics. It's usually not as simple as just saying, okay, let's just whip up a Power BI report and then we're done, because you've got to you know get data from multiple different sources, and then
Mhm.
you got to construct the data model that makes sense, and then obviously tell a good story with your report as well. What I think would be interesting as well is obviously you're dealing with some big data sets, right? You're dealing with some big numbers. What are some of the uh, most effective sort of data stacks or technology stacks that
Sure.
you're using and you're finding right now that are enabling you to produce good good reports and good insights for stakeholders?
Very good question, because that's very near and dear to my heart. I've been in analytics, right? Right from the beginning, I've been a big user of Tableau.
Right.
What is amazing about Tableau is you connect it to the data. It itself provides you some visualization or recommendations on how it, how the best data is understood. So I
Mhm.
really love that about Tableau. Even if I don't know what that data set is, it gives me some interpretation capabilities.
Right.
So that's one reason why I've equipped my entire team to have Tableau, because I really love that feature of Tableau.
Hmm.
The other thing that I also have used, and in the last, I would say, three years, I see Power BI being one of the very key tools, that is used company wide. One of the reasons is most of the users, the final users that will be using this data and talking to the customers, they are used to using Microsoft products such as even email and Excel, right? And they're
Yep.
used to using those spreadsheets. So for them, something is a Power BI is a lot easier than sending them a Tableau workbook,
Right.
So Power BI is easier to, I guess, to filter out, to download it into Excel. It's got a very Excel-like feel to it. I call it Excel on steroids, but
Yeah.
it's got that feel to it. And at the same time, now it's like literally I see every month they come up with something great. Like, they have storytelling capabilities, they have search capabilities. I find it really great,
Mm.
with Power BI, and that's being used significantly. We share information about our damages, like our packages that are damaged to the operations teams
Hmm.
through Power BI.
Right.
And it is the most effective way of communicating. It is connected to Office 365. We can send alerts and notifications. So I find Power BI as a very good tool. The third thing we really stumbled across recently and we are really excited about is ThoughtSpot. I don't know, Sam, if you've heard about that tool.
Yep. I have.
Okay, so they have very quickly gained the market and is in the Gartner's quadrant, also the magical quadrant.
Hmm.
And what I really love about that tool is the fact that you can do Google-like searches, Amazon-like searches, and really get to that data or the insight that you really want to know.
Mm.
This is very good for broad set of users, not necessarily for the key stakeholders or the executives,
Right.
but mostly for that broad set of users that want to know that information when the customer calls. So we find that as a very neat tool, because it is augmented reality, because they do have artificial intelligence built in.
Mm.
So based on the data, it also provides trends and information that tool. So something very similar to Tableau,
Right.
but a little different at the same time. So I think each of these tools have its place in my
Yeah.
organization, and I find it really good.
Yeah, I think I've heard of ThoughtSpot myself, but I haven't dived into it too much. Obviously, with a Power BI focus at Enterprise DNA, but I'm just having a look at the website now. So it just looks like it's a sort of the most intuitive web-based interface where you can
Mhm.
basically write natural language and get an answer. So I think it seems like a lot of the platforms are going in that direction, and Power BI has the Q&A feature uh,
Mhm.
as well, but it looks like ThoughtSpot is just even simpler. It just doesn't, because Power BI is trying to be everything to everyone.
Yes.
And yes, that's great. That is great if you want to produce incredible analytics and really advanced analytical work, which you can do with Power BI and I presume Tableau as well. But sometimes users just want answers and they don't want to have
Yeah.
to build a data model. They just want to be able to type in a query. And I definitely think that's where things are going. And I think it's super exciting because imagine the AI capabilities just sort of at your fingertips, really. And that evolution of where analytics is going is incredibly exciting. And it's good. It's good to open one's eyes to all of these other tools that are out there. It's not just always about one tool. So how do you actually go about managing multiple tools? Is there any sort of pushback in the organization, or is everyone just sort of happy saying, okay, well, this is the best tool for this? Is this the best tool for this? Or we can be a multi-tool operation and still be successful? How do those sort of discussions go?
Of course, there is going to be pushback, right? If you're going to say, especially in my organization, if I say, hey, I want all the tools and whistles, bells and whistles, they'd be like,
Right.
okay, that's going to be a little too expensive, don't you think? So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the biggest pushback, right? Cost always comes as the biggest pushback. Like as I said, Tableau has been around for a long time and we have been using it. So there is no problem except for the renewal fees. With Power BI, one of the key things is it's a Microsoft product, and we use a lot of Microsoft products, such as now very recently into Microsoft Azure too for big data analytics. So it is super exciting to have that. So that was never a pushback as such.
Mm-hmm.
I think the pushback, if anything, would be for newer products such as say ThoughtSpot or Spotfire and stuff. And each of it has really its space, as I told you. So it then comes into, okay, if we are going to invest in say a particular tool or something like that, what is the return on that investment? Are we going to have lesser number of people working on something? So for example, sometimes we have something called as a specific group of agents that work on our top-notch customers, like the top 5% of our customers that give us more than 60% of the business, right? So we have to cater to every single need of that customers. So what we want to give them is a very good understanding about how the packages for that customer is moving. A great example will be, I won't tell you the name of the customer as such, but I can tell you for one of our largest e-tailers. So that for that e-tailers, they have multiple sellers of theirs and then multiple consumers too. So FedEx has to manage the entire logistics from end to end, right from one location to the other. And for them to have that visual understanding of, because even at the end of the day, it's that e-tailer that's giving the customer the ETA on when the shipment is going to arrive, what is that cost and everything like that. For them to have a complete understanding of all the FedEx portfolio and our services and everything to give a right information to their end consumer, they need to have all this data provided to them in a very structured manner, in a very easy to understand way. So, and at the same time, I don't want to overwhelm my agents who would be discussing with these customers with so much data in these different tools. Instead, we created a platform through which we can connect directly to the agent. The agent doesn't know whether it's coming from Power BI or whether it's coming from something else, so they can interact with that data and provide that information. And to just say, hey, this agent generally spent 3 to 4 hours putting a report together for our customer because this customer is demanding, they need a lot of this information. To say, hey, from that 3 to 4 hours, now they are spending less than like 10 minutes. So imagine the amount of hours and the reduction we have been doing by providing them access to all this data with these tools. And that is the key win. So that's where we can overcome that kind of a pushback of cost.
Yeah, yeah, no, I like that. I like that framework, and it's a really good thought as well that flows onto something else I wanted to cover is, if you look over, say, the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see the biggest opportunities in the analytics space? Because this is something that's come up in a number of conversations that I've had, is that, once you dig into the analytics space, you realize that we've still probably only like 5% or 10% of the value you can create from analytics projects. Like, we're literally just at the beginnings of
Yeah.
what can be done in this space. And I was wondering, where you see huge opportunities around building out analytics, say, products, or just analytics initiatives that can generate value, like around revenue increases, optimizations, cost reductions, time savings. Like, when you sort of look at all those sort of key aspects that you can impact through analytics, where are the biggest opportunities?
Wow, Sam, I would love to hear what you have heard from your other interviews too. But I really think that there is a lot of room for opportunity. Always there is, with the technology advancing at the rate that it is. It's really amazing. There is so much to do here. And
Yeah.
what I really feel is even what I used to do 10 years ago is not what I would be doing in the next few years, or even now, because things have changed. I remember those days where I had to create flat files and pull data from multiple sources to make it structured so that, say, Tableau could use it and stuff. I don't do that anymore. Now data is structured when I talk to IT in a particular format. And with Python and everything coming up, Python's SQL, Postgre, and everything coming up, we can take raw data, which is even in any kind of language, put it together and structure it. So to me, I really feel all this is going to change too, because eventually we will be focusing more on NLP, which is natural language processing, and RPA, which is robotic process and automation. So my team is heavily focused in learning those new technologies and skills.
Mhm.
I can give you an example of Cogito software. I don't know if you know about them, but I find it pretty incredible for customer experience. So what they have is their tool. It is embedded in our systems, in our call center, in our email, in the email platforms, maybe through Salesforce, but they keep it embedded like that. So what they do is through NLP, regardless of whichever language the customer is discussing with you, they go ahead and they decipher that data in such a way that it looks at the customer's sentiment, whether that customer is angry, upset, or happy or delighted. It looks at that sentiment and gives a thumbs down, thumbs up kind of a thing to the agent who is conversing with that customer, and also prompts that agent as to which among the knowledge management system, which is a huge repository of all the data that the agent has, which information you need to be sharing with that customer based on what the customer is talking to you.
Mm.
So to me, it is like, wow, right? Instead of that agent spending, oh, give me a second, let me put you on hold, let me research, none of that happens. So,
Mm.
you're reducing the time significantly. So such softwares and such new technologies is the next wave. So yes, we have Power BI, we have Tableau and everything, but I think ThoughtSpot like tools, or maybe if Power BI also get to what ThoughtSpot is doing, because I think they also have the search capability. So they're very close.
Mm.
So once they have that, most of the analysis piece of it will be taken care of. Then what really happens is strategies. How do we get those insights from all this big data and really start strategizing how do we do the next step?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And the example that you just went over there regarding the voice analysis is where there is is one place where there's just huge opportunity. It's the actual data extraction. So the ability to generate data where there was none before. It's sort of like
Mhm.
how Microsoft sort of say data is the new oil. It's a sort of their buzzword. It's kind of like finding these new oil wells that you can then refine and make insights out of. And I see that sort of happening absolutely everywhere. Even in our own business, there's information based on who's coming to our site, what they're doing on our site, what
Mhm.
people are doing when they're interacting with our emails, when they're interacting with our videos. There's that data just didn't exist, some time ago, and when you bring it all together with these new tools, a lot of the back end IT infrastructure, you can bring it together quite quickly now with APIs and cloud based databases, and then you can throw it into these tools and bring it all together and mesh it all up and then produce reports out of it. There's just this complete data immersion, and particularly over data that doesn't really even exist, like analysis that hasn't existed. There's just that's where I see, and it sounds like you're sort of you seeing exactly the same things. That is where this huge value extraction is going to happen, because we really haven't even moved into this realm of analysis that can be done yet. There's still so much room, and I dare say that there's still a lot of businesses that don't even know that Power BI exists. So if you even just think about
Right.
if you even just think about that for a second, there's just enormous room for growth in so many areas. And I also think the automation aspect is going to
Yes.
be huge as well. And really that all that's going to do, I think, is distribute the analysis down to every layer of an organization. So, when someone calls up, your customer calls up to your call center, they're going to have this ability just to search any analysis on that customer, and they'll be able to see
Mm-hmm.
everything in real time. And so that sort of thing is inevitable and super exciting. Because if you can get there first, that's a huge competitive advantage, I would have thought.
Very true, very true. We are also working on few things like, trying to get that customer information ahead of time to our agent, just
Right.
based on who is calling. So that I mean, those technology exists, just putting it all together. Of course, that will take some time, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, RPA, I did forget to mention, that is another field we are really trying to get into.
Right.
You must have heard about the FedEx bot, which is now in major cities like New York and stuff, where the bot is actually delivering the packages in the major cities, which
Wow.
is pretty cool. So yeah, it
So
is.
so it's a autonomous. Is it?
Yes,
It's an autonomous bot. Wow. Okay, that's cool. I mean,
yeah.
that in itself is super exciting. Just the time saving around delivery, driving, the data points that you can extract from that. I mean, it's just crazy
Yeah.
what value that's going to drive just in itself.
Correct, correct. And there is so much more to do with that kind of technology that's out there. There are two types of technologies. One is desktop automation, which mimics the human methodology of doing things. And the other one is the process automation, which is for the entire process. So, I
Mhm.
mean, I'm really excited how we can use that for analytics. And that's one thing that my team is really focused on.
Yeah.
For example, what the agent currently does, okay, he or she has to go through different places. One, to look at the amount of cases the customer has on, or cases the package has for the specific customer, right? The amount of shipments that are stuck in customs for the same customer, the information about what is the past shipping behavior of the customer. So if they have all these 3 or 4 different data sources, putting it together, so giving complete information to that customer. So we can definitely use robotic process automation to do that. So
Mm.
those are a few things what my team is really focused on, trying to work on.
Right. And so, final question or final questions. We'll see, um, and what you feel you can go into, because I'm really interested, because FedEx is probably at the forefront of a lot of, it's a very competitive space, right? So you're at the forefront of a lot of the exciting um, emerging fields, such as robotics and autonomy, like vehicle autonomy, etc. Oh, you mentioned before that you've got a bot who is delivering packages, etc. What are some of the exciting initiatives that you sort of see coming on stream? Like how quickly are we going to see more delivery bots? They're going to how are they going
There
to be
is it.
more
It's still
prevalent?
in the. Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much information to share on that aspect too. Again, I'm not the spokesperson of FedEx or anything like that, so I don't have too much to share, but I can tell you that this is still only being considered for few urban areas.
Right.
So there is a lot. FedEx has a big reach worldwide,
Mm.
so, there is still a lot to be done. But what my point here was to say is that that is the next thing to do, which is robotics and the natural language processing and the artificial intelligence,
Mm.
because those things are where, the teams need to be focusing on to really innovate ourselves.
Right. Right. Yep. No, I agree. You might find in the future that your next evolution in FedEx could be running the the bot and analytics team or something like that. there's so much scope to especially around
Yes.
data extraction in those particular areas. Now, okay, last question before we round off. What are you most excited about in the analytics space? And what over the next few years,
Oh.
what are you excited about in terms of maybe anything technology, or just maybe implementations, or what value you can generate? What are some of the things that sort of get you
So
going?
Yeah, I mean, I get excited about analytics quite a bit. I think at the end of the day, for my team and myself, when we see that whatever work we are doing is directly impacting the bottom line, where we are reducing the cost and where we are increasing the profits through cross-selling, through making sure we are giving our sales agents, our customer experience agents, the right information so they can maybe get new customers, or get additional business out of existing customers, because say they have a new product and we now know how to even sell that or move that product through the logistics. So those are many things that we immediately impact with. So that's one thing that really drives us, motivates all of us from the entire team. We see that immediately when our stakeholders get excited to see all this data, the way we communicate it to them, the way we give them that information, and they're like, okay, go ahead, work on it, research on your own, and try to tell us how do we get there. And for us to strategize that and provide that kind of output, that's what motivates us the most. So we will, of course, research RPA. As I told you, we are my team. There are a few members in my team that are researching that. We will look into NLP. We'll also look into all the data analytical tools that are out there. So we will try to continue to push that forward, and maybe learn something new might come along, in a year or two. But we are always continuously learning and
Mm.
continuously improving what we have to provide.
Yeah, I think the intellectual challenge of the analytics space is quite interesting, and I think you alluded to that as well. Just the constant opportunities to learn new things because the technology is evolving so quickly and improving so much. And there's all these new fields like AI, machine learning, robotic process, and just general automation tools that you can find, with a lot of the online and cloud-based pieces of technology these days. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with that aspect. And I myself, I mean, I learn about Power BI, every day, and Microsoft's Power Platform, and there's so many different niches and aspects that you can apply it to. And so that is something that really excites me going forward as well. Just this constant ability to learn more.
Right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, well, Rashmi, I think that was a super conversation, and I really appreciate your time on the podcast today. So hopefully you enjoyed being a part of it as well. And yeah, any further thoughts? Any last thoughts from you? Anything else that you wanted to mention before we round off?
No, thank you so much for this opportunity. As I mentioned, would love to learn more about, your different interviews and your different broadcasts that you will be having, because it's really nice to get the people with the like mindset on analytics, especially the ones who are passionate about it, to be in
Mm,
the loop, right? So
yeah,
please keep me in that loop. And I think I've already subscribed to multiple channels of yours. So
that's
thank you
great.
so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And yeah, it's fantastic to talk to people like yourself, sort of leaders in the data space, just to get your thoughts and your ideas around what works and what doesn't. And that's one of the things that I've thoroughly enjoyed about creating the podcast and organizing interviews, and I look forward to doing more of the same. So if everyone else, just a reminder to everyone else who's listening in, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite listening app, and also we publish the recordings on our YouTube channel as well, so you can get those on Enterprise DNA TV. And even I've got some thoughts about using some of the newer technologies that are coming out as well. I'm not sure if you've heard of Clubhouse, but it seems like this is the new craze, and everyone's sort of having conversations on there. So that could be another opportunity to get more of a collective group of data leaders as well. So we're always trying to innovate at Enterprise DNA, and so watch this space. There's plenty more to come. Okay, Rashmi, let's round off. Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for tuning in.